It's Joel.
The podcast.
Dun dun dun. Bzzz. Hello, everybody. I'm Alex,
And I'm Alex.
and this is our podcast, Joel. Welcome to episode 138 of Joel the Podcast. We're happy that you're here. And I wanted to start the podcast off by letting everyone know that Nathan does not owe me $1.
However, this is a slight spoiler for the Sports Minute, I would imagine, but Alex does owe me $1.
No!
Yes.
Although I will say I'm happy to owe you $1 for this.
Yeah, I agree. Why don't we just get into it since we're clearly edging our way toward it.
Great. So, as everyone knows, the Major League Baseball season has started since the last time we had our podcast.
Yes, and if I recall correctly, I bet you that it would start, and you thought that it wouldn't. You thought that they just weren't going to play baseball.
Yes, so I'm pretty
year.
happy that it started. Yeah. So that's been exciting. The Phillies, who I root for, have been bad. They're 1-3. Well, actually, they will be 1-3 once they lose tonight. They're losing like 9-2 right now. So that's unfortunate.
There's still a chance. Wouldn't that be incredible?
That would be incredible if on the podcast. I mean, while we were doing the podcast, they came back from the and actually, I know some of my friends are there tonight, so it'd be even more amazing for them.
Rough night to go watch a game.
Yeah, I mean, the game was. I turned the game on when I got home tonight at like 7 or whatever, and it was the second inning, and the Phillies were losing 4-0. So like that's not it's one thing to lose 9-2, but it's another thing to literally just the entire game not have any chance of winning.
You're just waiting to lose the entire time.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit how I felt toward the middle of the second half of the Purdue-Arizona game.
Oh yeah, that's the Purdue game. Yes, so Purdue, as we alluded to, lost in the Elite Eight to Arizona. I wasn't that disappointed. I mean, like I mentioned, I kind of expected them to lose in the Sweet 16. Although once I found out they were playing Texas, obviously I expected them to win that.
Right.
And I expected them. So they beat everyone I expected them to beat, and they lost when I expected them to lose. I did like that because they had beaten Michigan in the previous round. There was still like a little hope going into the game. Like, they can hang with. They're on a big winning streak. They've beaten good teams.
Right.
They can hang, but once the second half came, they could not hang.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I'm. It was nice.
Oh no!
What?
I just realized that I don't have my headphones in, so all your audio is getting recorded on my phone.
Oh, awesome! It's we've done this before. We just left it in. It's not.
I'll be right back.
It's not that big a deal. While you're gone looking for this, I'll just give a quick recap of the game for anyone who doesn't follow Purdue sports at all. Purdue went into this game, I believe, a fairly slight underdog.
I thought they were like 6.5-point dogs.
Maybe it was more. Maybe it was a bit more. That kind of feels right.
Because I felt like they were like the similar underdogs to how they had been favored in the previous rounds.
Sure. Yeah, that's probably true. I'm going from memory here.
I could just check.
Point being, they were, not expected to win this game by any means.
Or 5.5-point underdogs.
Yeah, 5.5 points feels about right. That's kind of what I hope for when it comes to Purdue in the tournament, is just like perform at least to the expectation of where you should. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But the first half of the game was actually looking pretty good there for a while, which I think gave me more hope than I started out with. Like, I was like, well, this could maybe happen. And then the second half started, and it was a pretty, I don't know, relentless Arizona dominance there. So
yeah, I feel like what happened? Oh my gosh! If you hear my printer go during this podcast,
It's
state
okay. You can
printers.
probably hear my spoon clinking on the bowl a
Um,
couple of times here and there. This is gonna be real
sorry.
low quality.
Let me rant about my printer for a second. So, it's 2026. I feel like printers should be better. My printer. So I wanted to print something tonight. So I go Control P, press print. Nothing happens. Okay, whatever. So I unplug my printer, plug it back in. Okay, printer starts up and everything. Nothing happens. So I'm like, okay, go to print the document again. Print. It's successful. It prints like 90% of the document. Like, okay, so I'm showing it to you. The listeners can't see. This is the program for this event we're having at our church this week.
Yeah.
So you can see that this side
It got almost to the end.
Yeah, this side got fully printed. It flipped over
Yep.
and then printed like 90% of this side. Which I didn't
Wow.
need this document. I was printing it as a proof of concept to make sure it would be like oriented correctly.
Sure.
So it's whatever. It's gonna be actually printed by the church. But so it gets to like 90% done and then it just stops. Like it's still in the printer. The printer still says printing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, I succeeded in the proof of concept, so I don't even care. I'm just gonna move on with my life. So I go continue, putting on the Phillies game, getting ready for the podcast, whatever. And then like 15 minutes later, the printer starts up again. I don't remember if it like printed a little more or not, but like spits this out, 90% finished.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, whatever. But now every I don't know, this has happened twice since we started. This is the third time it happened since we started talking. It starts printing again. I only printed this twice. Like I printed it once, restarted the printer, printed it again. So this this is the fourth time now, including the first time where it actually printed it. And I keep hitting cancel because I don't want it to print again. But It's just like, why is printing so hard? It's 2026. This shouldn't be this bad.
Printers are cursed.
Okay, anyway. Okay, what I was going to say about Purdue, to get back to the sports minutes, is I feel like what happened to them all season happened to them, which is they got kind of cold shooting, and their defense just isn't great, so they couldn't really keep up with the other team once that happened.
Yeah, they never... In the games they lost, when things start going poorly, I really feel like it just kind of avalanches, right? I can't remember, and I didn't watch the season super closely, so maybe somebody out there can point out some obvious counterexample to this, but it doesn't feel like there were a lot of times where things were going poorly, but then they were like, you know what, let's clutch this out. Let's turn it around. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if it was going rough, that was it. It was rough.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So, and against Arizona's a very good team. So.
Right.
Did you make a bracket?
I didn't make a bracket, but I did make 2 billion brackets.
Right.
Can't
Are
remember
any
if
of
we
them?
talked about this on.
Yeah. How are they doing? Are any of them still?
None of the
perfect?
men's brackets are still perfect, but at the end of the women's Sweet 16, I had 4 left.
Uh-huh.
I had, if at the end of the men's round of 32, if Florida had beaten Iowa, I also would have had 4 left, just for a sense of scale between the two.
Mm-hmm.
But since Iowa won that game, it was none. I think if anybody wants to sponsor me making 1 trillion brackets next year, that might be the point.
When you make 2 billion brackets, do you store them all on your computer or something?
Yes. So
and how much space does that take up?
1 billion brackets is 8 gigabytes.
Wow. Okay.
So I would need a at least 8 terabyte drive to store 1 trillion, which is more than every hard drive in my possession right now, for the record.
Right.
but not by much.
Right.
And storage is not that expensive in 2026. So, if anybody's got a cool $400 just lying around and wants
And they
to,
think, you know what a really good use of this $400 would be? For Nathan to get 8 terabytes of storage so that he
yep.
can once a year make 1 trillion brackets and have a higher chance of having a perfect bracket.
Yeah, that's the thing is like the only reason I would totally just buy a big hard drive because that's a pretty useful thing to have in general, especially with all this podcast content we crank out because that's like
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 gigabytes per episode just in the final video product alone, not to mention all the like precursor files. Um, so like yeah, a big hard drive is not a waste of money for me, but in order for it to store the brackets, it has to just be empty all the rest of the time, right? Like there's
Well,
no
you could.
world in which you can say like 90% of the time it has all my files on it, but then the other 10% I make brackets. Because like where
Right.
do all the files go then?
You just need
So I
the
really do need
cloud.
just a spare massive hard drive for just this purpose, and that's a little hard to justify.
Yeah. So, um, my brackets. Well, I don't think the listeners care about my brackets. I'm in first place in both my family pool and my work pool, but I can't win both. So I can
Ooh.
only win one.
Who are your champions?
I used the same bracket in both of them, and
Oh, I
it's Duke.
see.
It was Duke.
Unfortunate.
Yes. So, oh, the other thing I wanted to bring up at the Sports Minute, sorry, it's going a little long, is the I don't know if you saw this, but the ONOC metric. Have you heard of this? Or no, that's not what it's called. It's called OSOC metric.
Are you talking about for March Madness?
Yes.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
I'm excited that it's obviously it still could be broken, but
Yeah.
for those who don't know, 17 of the last 18 tournaments have been won by teams who are 1 seeds or Connecticut,
Yes.
aka OSOC, and the 3 of the final 4 are 1 seeds or Connecticut this year. So,
Yep.
um,
So if
it's got a good chance of continuing.
right, if you want this silly trend to break, you're rooting for Illinois, which is kind of gross, but
Is there anyone who actually roots for Illinois?
I can't think of anyone.
Yeah. If you root for Illinois, send us an email. You can find our email on our website. Excuse me. Which is alexandalex@joelthepodcast.github.io/alexandalex@joelthepodcast.website/index.html. Just go there,
Please,
click on the link, and let us know that you're an Illinois fan, because I don't know if I've ever met one.
please especially remember to use the subject line, I am a dumbass.
Of course, of course. Speaking of emails, did we receive any emails this week?
What an excellent question that I am completely prepared for.
I mean,
So,
since we didn't post the previous episode since we recorded, we probably didn't. But I figured,
yeah. In fact, we did not. You're right.
Yeah.
So this one's maybe a bit on us for not having the episode out there yet for everybody to respond to. But, at this point, we got 136 other ones out there for you to be re-listening to and getting fresh ideas to email us about. So,
And I know the listeners have all been wondering about this, but we have finally finished filling up our list of what we did in each episode, because so often we'd be like, oh, when did we do X, or what did we do in episode 83, and the names don't always help you figure that out. So we finally have finished listening through enough that we've constructed the full list of what we've done in every episode. So
yes.
now the listeners know that, so I don't know why I said that, but...
Well, that could be helpful if you, the listener, are out there wondering, is episode 73 worth my time to listen to? You can email us and say, something like, "Hi, Alex and Alex at Joel the Podcast. What did you talk about in episode 73? Is it a good episode?" And we can respond to you with something along the lines of, what would we say?
Yes.
Yes. Of course.
We'll
Episode
make it more
73.
interesting than that.
Oh,
Looking
well,
at
episode 73 has advice in the title, so that one's probably...
no, but you still might want to know, like, is it worth,
Yes.
is it worth listening to? And
Right.
we could tell you this piece of trivia that we've noted here, which is that in the episode,
Oh, no,
Nathan
wait.
correctly predicted a 15-point Purdue loss to Iowa in basketball. So you wouldn't know that unless you emailed us or listened to the
Right.
episode or listened to
Yeah,
the next
that's true.
episode.
Yeah, where I said that in the sports minute there. All right, cool. This is useful. You can email us about our episodes, and we'll know how to answer you.
Indeed. All right. I guess that we should get into this week's episode. We're gonna try something new. Dun dun dun.
Terrifying.
I want you to clip that dun 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 and use that for the, like, it's Joel. Dun dun dun, like at the beginning of the episode, like, you know what I'm saying?
Instead of me saying, yeah. All right.
No, I say it's Joel. You say the podcast, and then dun dun
Okay.
dun.
Gotcha. Okay. Now that you've done it 3 times, should I take all 3 of them and like layer it? Or is that gonna
Do whatever
sound
you think
bad?
is best. Although the second time I did cut it off early, unfortunately. So you may only
okay.
be able to take the first and third times, or you could layer them all 3, and they'll just be like a part of me talking at the end of the second one.
I'll use the first one because I think that's where you put in the most that
Yeah.
had the most effort and heart.
This is one of those.
So-
This is one of those bits which is kind of funny because as the listeners are listening to it, they already know what we did because it was at the beginning of the episode. So
And they're
it's
like, I can't believe they're still talking about this bit.
Yeah.
This has been going on for like 30 seconds.
But at least you get to hear, listener, the genesis. Like, you get to hear us come up with an idea that you have seen the execution of. So it's kind of a cool opportunity.
No, I mean, not only is this podcast a new idea that we haven't done before, but you're literally getting new ideas within the podcast being born in that instant. So this
is monumental, really.
You're right. This is the literal. Let's go. Let's start the episode.
Would you like to explain what we're gonna do?
I was trying to come up with the title there is what I was trying to do. But what we're going to do for the rest of the episode is so as you may know if you've listened to our past episodes, we are experts on many topics, and we have shared our expertise in the form of advice and by answering a variety of quizzes and other very important, knowledge sharing exercises. But one thing we haven't done is taken some time just to sit down and talk about the depth of our knowledge into certain topics, especially ones that don't come up as frequently in the course of our normal podcast. So what we wanted to do this week was to just kind of like interview each other, and really get to the root of some of those, deep learnings that we have spent so long cultivating.
Indeed, and we had discussed before the podcast some of the topics we were going to cover. Did you write any of those down, or were we just going to have to remember them?
I thought you were writing them down as we went, but I do
Okay.
remember a few of them. So
I do remember a few of them too, so that should be good. Do you want to be the expert first, or do you want me to be the expert first?
Let me hit you with some questions. Let me try and set the stage here. I, of course, being an expert on interviewing, can kind of
course,
dial that in right at the start here. Listen, I know you've told you off the air, of course, you've told me all about Jay-Z, right? Your extensive knowledge, your intimate familiarity with the lore, and all of the.
They call me
all of the
Dr. J
artistry.
because of how much I know about Jay-Z.
Absolutely. So here on the podcast, I'd like to welcome our special guest, Dr. J.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome, Dr. J.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
on my
could
own
you tell me?
podcast.
On your own. Could you tell me just a little bit about how you first came to know the work of Jay-Z?
Sure, sure. Well, I first became interested in Jay Z when I was around 14 years old.
Sure.
It was actually not because I had listened to any of his music. It was because I met him. I
Oh,
was in I was up in Toronto, which is where he's from, and for a family vacation. And he just happened to be staying at the same hotel we were at.
hmm,
Um, and so like I was wandering around while my parents were checking in, and um, he just like looked interesting, so I just started chatting with him. And literally, I didn't even know who he was. It was kind of crazy.
sure, sure.
And yeah, he just started talking to me like just like a normal guy, which is pretty cool. And literally, when I went up to like later that night, I was just like scrolling through. I didn't have social media at that time. I was just I guess on YouTube or something, and I was like, wait, that's the guy I was just talking to, and it was Jay Z. And so that was really how my passion for Jay Z and for his music really started. And from there, it was just like listening to his stuff, listening to all the interviews that he's done, doing kind of public records requests for like different like places and things to learn kind of some original research in that area.
Ooh, interesting.
So
Would,
that's kind of the story, I guess.
yeah, would you consider would you call yourself more of a fan or almost like a scholarly researcher then into Jay?
Honestly, I think it's the best of both worlds.
Sure.
I feel like fan first, but like the way that my fanhood expresses itself is through like scholarship.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. Would you say that that first encounter with him then kind of like you don't know who this is, but this is clearly a very intriguing person. Did that set the stage for kind of a lifelong exploration versus if you had just heard his music, you'd be like, yeah, I like listening to his music. You know what I mean?
I feel like yeah, cuz like I mean obviously his music is great, so like I think I would have been into that regardless.
Sure.
But once listening to the music and being like I know this guy, like that's kind of what made it really special. So like
Right. And
I
by
definitely
know this guy, you mean not that you met him in person, which is a very superficial form of knowing, but like you deeply know him from hours of research and investigation.
well, that's true now, but originally I actually meant it the mundane way,
You
where like I just met him, like when I first started listening to him. But now, yes, like now,
yeah.
like when I listen to the music, like
Uh-huh.
I feel like I just understand everything that goes into it, which makes it
Yeah.
so much more meaningful.
Yeah. So speaking of his music then, I think we could go on and on about his um like the structure of the songs for one, the like lyrical genius, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
also just the textures, the kind of sonic landscapes that he forms
Mm.
within his
Good
pieces.
good word.
Can you kind of highlight the aspects that speak to you most clearly in what he produces?
Yeah, I mean to me like what you really have like what really I just feel like suffuses another good word all of
Whoa.
Jay-Z's music is just like his passion for watermelon. Like just
Yeah.
in every like and this is not something most people know. This is something that he
Hmm.
said in an interview like 20 years ago. So
Sure.
it's but once you know about it and then you listen to the music like you can't unhear it. Like it's just becomes like so obvious. Um
Of course.
and it brings both like it like liveliness to his music,
Yeah.
but also a little bit of restraint because like with watermelon like it's really good and it tastes good, but also it's big. You can't eat a whole watermelon in one sitting for the most
Yeah.
part. So like you have to have some restraint. So like those two features in his music, I really feel like come from that, and kind of is one of the things that I like the most about his music.
Would you say then in regards to watermelon, and I don't know if this is even public knowledge, but would Jay-Z prefer the inside of the watermelon or kind of the shell, the rind?
hmm I think it's one of those that's like it's like asking like do you like the cheese like the cheese and sauce versus the crust of a pizza? It's
Uh-huh.
like you can't have one without the other.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
like you could lick off the cheese, I guess, but like that would be super weird. You could just eat the crust, but like either way, you're missing out on an integral part of the pizza. So it's the same way with the watermelon. Like, you really need to get a slice that has both the rind and the red part. I don't know what it would be called. I'm sure Jay Z could tell us. I'm not a watermelon expert.
yeah.
Um,
Just a Jay-Z expert.
right, but I'm sure he could tell you what it was called, and you really have to have both in order to
Yeah,
have like a truly transcendent experience with the watermelon that kind of leads to the passion in his music.
sure. Now, let me take things in a different direction. We're talking a bit
Sure.
about Jay-Z, the artist.
hmm
Um, how much do you know, and what can you tell us? What can you maybe kind of uncover for the audience about Jay-Z, the cyclist?
hmm Well, that's actually a very great. You must be like a real good, really interview expert because
Hey, I read
uh,
up on this. Yeah,
yeah, most people don't even know about that. Yeah, so for those who don't know, though, Jay Z is a state champion cyclist. He started when he was 16 years old. Um, his parents, I mean, he'd been, sorry, when I say started, I'm talking about competitively. Obviously, he had
sure.
been cycling before that point, just like,
Since about the age of
like
15, would you say?
15, maybe even 14.
Yeah,
He got a
pretty
mountain
impressive
bike
stuff.
for his he got a mountain bike for his 14th birthday, Trek brand, and it was blue. And that just really kind of ignited the passion for it. And like his parents would talk about how like they just like they couldn't keep him in the house. He was just always out cycling somewhere.
Yeah,
So yeah, so when he was 16, he started cycling competitively. Um, he the issue is didn't give the chance. He didn't have the chance for it to blow up because his music started taking off so quickly. So like from 16 to 19, he was like really big in the cycling scene. But like
yeah,
you heard me
yeah.
call him state champion. Like he only got to like that level of like being the best in his home state, which of course by which I mean home province of Ontario, Canada, because I mentioned that he's from Toronto.
Yes,
Um,
of course, of course.
and I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, 16 to 19, he became the province champion cyclist. But then his music started taking off, so he had to spend less and less time on the cycling. Not because he had to spend more time on the music, but because with the persona he was cultivating in the
Mhm.
music industry, people would like his music less if they knew he was a cyclist. I think. And now he's
Yeah,
big enough.
at least
Now
at the
he's big.
start, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now he's big enough that it's probably okay. But yeah, at the start, he didn't really want that to become too public, so he kind of toned it down. But I know that he still cycles every day to work. On the weekends, often goes cycling with his wife and kids. So yeah, it's definitely still a big passion of his for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's really interesting, one of the lesser known aspects, and especially interesting to me to kind of dive in because it feels like in every artist there's the cyclist, right? And those
hmm
two are innately in conflict, and I've struggled for a long time trying to be both a podcast artist and also a cyclist, but um, yeah, it is just tricky, and major props to Jay for managing to pull that off at an extremely high level
hmm
in both fields there. Um,
Why don't we have one more question here?
yeah, I was just thinking the same. What's kind of the closure, the wrap up? Where do you see Jay going in the future? You know what I mean? Like he's
hmm
accomplished so much. What is the next frontier?
Um, well, to be honest, I don't want to spoil too much because honestly, I don't think a lot of this stuff is super public knowledge yet. But I'll just say, um, you might want to go see the next Avengers movie. That's all I'm gonna
Oh,
say.
wow, what a bombshell to drop there. That is some impressive stuff. I'm glad we got that out there, and thank you for joining your podcast to talk about that with us.
Of course, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And with that, let me turn it around on you.
Yeah.
I know that you yourself are, in addition to being an interviewing expert, also an expert on like medieval art. And I was wondering if you would be willing to kind of share your expertise on that topic with us today.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting thing. I need to kind of qualify this at the start here. I know absolutely nothing about medieval artists, to be clear.
Okay.
I only know about the art.
Okay.
So I just want to set that expectation, right? Like I may come out and say something silly about like Leonardo or Raphael or one of the other, Ninja Turtle guys, but it's really about the art for me, and that's really what my passion is for, just to be
Sure.
clear.
So can I ask, when you say you don't know the art about the artist, like you
Yeah.
know their names and who did what painting, but you don't know about themselves, or you literally like just know what the art looks like and don't even know anything about who painted them?
Yeah, it's really the latter. I have zero
Okay.
knowledge of I could not match to you art to artist, right? It is just
Got it.
I can talk for hours about art exclusively.
All right. So now one thing that I think most people, probably one of the few things that most people know about medieval art is that a lot of it is religious art, because that was
Yeah.
kind of the church was like a big patron of the arts during that time. I'm wondering if you can share some of the lesser known non-religious art. Like, what are some of the best pieces that people should be on the lookout for in that category?
Yeah, my absolute favorite is the medieval. These guys were visionaries, and again, I apologize because I know nothing about them. Only the art they produce, which is fantastic. But if you ever have the chance to go to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, there is a little known wing in the NASCAR Hall of Fame for genuine medieval NASCAR art. And it's just incredible how these guys were able to predict at that time. It's kind of hilarious, honestly. The one thing they didn't know is which way around the track the cars would be going.
They thought it
Right?
was going to be
They thought it
clockwise
was
or
They thought it was
yeah.
I don't even know about NASCAR. Like I'm literally laser focused on art. But
Well, you've seen the art, so you know which way they depicted it. So you must know
oh,
which way the real.
that's a great point. They are exclusively depicting clockwise races, so it must be that the real thing is
Yeah,
counterclockwise.
sure,
That's
sure.
got to be that's surely correct. Don't fact check that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just the imagination, right? To literally dozens of years before the invention of the car, many dozens of years. I can't emphasize that enough. These guys are out there putting like the sponsors
More than 3 years.
literally like at least 4 years. But yeah, no, just amazing stuff. That's my big one. I always love to pull that one out. The other ones that I like to call some attention to, I mean, obviously the church stuff is big, right? Like, and that for good reason, right? There is a lot of really quality art there. I think what gets lost in that almost is the fact that sometimes the church art will depict nearby buildings also, right? They'll be painting a church and then they'll capture the supermarket or the butcher or the pharmacy, right? Like, and you get a real slice of medieval life where these guys are saying like, here's the hotel, here's the place where everyone would gather at the post office, right, to check their PO boxes. Um, it's truly just like a fascinating slice that kind of goes unnoticed almost with such heavy religious focus on some of the pieces, that some of that is still there in the background.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for pulling that out. So, now one thing that I'm kind of curious about, kind of stepping back from the pieces themselves, could you tell us a little bit about the techniques that were used at the time? Like, how did they get their paint? How did they apply that paint to their medium? Did they, were there any special techniques that were kind of originated during that time? Anything you can tell us about the kind of method of art? at the time.
Sure, sure. So I think the biggest thing to call out here is that medieval art was almost exclusively done paint on canvas.
Okay.
You'll very rarely see medieval art in any other form. It's actually shocking the extent that people don't know this because I think things like, sculpture and kind of the architecture type things like carvings in stone tablets or things like that, those are more durable. But literally, we're talking about the Middle Ages here. This is a period of 1,000 years. There were billions, if not trillions, of paint on canvas works produced produced by your printer malfunctioning yet again in the middle of this episode. Yeah, so yeah, paint on canvas is definitely the big thing here. And what's probably the most interesting thing to me is about how they got their paint. Right, because you can imagine today being an artist, you just go on the internet or whatever, and you go to paints.com and you order your paint, and it comes in literally any color you could ever ask for. But back in the Middle Ages, they had only discovered the primary colors.
Mm.
So most of their art, anytime you see a different color, it's just a combination of those primary colors.
Mm-hmm. So we all know that, like, and maybe this is a little bit outside your area of expertise. So you may not know this. I'm just curious. We all know that, like, about 60 to 70 years ago, the world was in black and white.
Yes.
So was that the case back in the Middle Ages too, or did it kind of lose its color over time and then regain it, maybe like 50 years ago or whatever?
Yeah, you're right. This is a little bit outside my area, but I did kind of have to delve in this to try and understand because what it comes down to is they did have color in the Middle Ages, and this is kind of a layman's understanding. This is pretty high level because I didn't, study this very much,
Mm-hmm.
but my understanding is that color throughout the past has been kind of cyclical. You'll get periods of more color, you'll have periods of less color. Um, right now, actually, we're in the just about the most color there's ever been. Like there's just millions of colors out there, right? If you look around, there's all kinds of color. The Middle Ages wasn't quite this vibrant. Everything was a little more muted. Like if you ever see the Middle Ages on TV and everything's kind of like gray and dull because you're trying to project this like vibe of things being very dingy. That's not just like an effect, like kind of getting you in that mood. That's literally what things looked like. That is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to the best of our scholarship, that's truly the color palette of the Middle Ages. Um, and so yeah, it was really, I think, interesting to see even with what they were working with back then, how they were able to produce such incredible pieces that hold up even today.
Yeah. Now, what kind of painting styles were popular back then? I mean, as someone who has seen only a limited amount of old art, I've seen like
Yeah.
impressionism, or from all everything from a scale of something super realistic to super abstract. What kind of thing was typically favored in the Middle Ages?
Yeah, the thing that they were really working on back then is how to do hands. Like hands are just really hard. Have you ever tried to draw a hand?
I have,
It,
yes.
it's like impossible. And
It's difficult.
you spend like 90% of your entire life looking at hands because they're attached to your arms. And they're
And I
just
just walk around like this with my hands in front of my face all the time.
exactly. And and that's what the artists back then did too, but it hadn't clicked yet, right? They don't have
Mm.
the modern technology that we have today that can reproduce hands very reliably. And
Hmm.
so you'll find a lot of the techniques were actually developed with kind of like trying to refine the hand in mind. So you'll see this is really interesting if you look closely at almost no, I don't know, almost any is probably too strong, but 60 to 75% of medieval paintings, if you look really, really closely, they're actually made up of little fingers. So the
Mm.
artists were actually like practicing just drawing fingers really small so that you could
Wow.
practice a lot of it on the limited canvas which was of course a much more valuable resource back in the Middle Ages. Um, and what they would find is like over time, after they practiced a bit, if you kind of held their practice pad at arm's length, you start to get these like larger, more coherent images being built up. And so artists were then training to like focus on that end image, especially over, this period of hundreds of years as they're kind of refining the hands technique more and more. It's really about I would say 14th, 15th century where you start to get pretty solid, reliable hands in paintings, that they're really focusing more on the overall art piece itself, which might then kind of branch out into different styles as opposed to being finger collages, more or less. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Maybe we'll have one final question here. So some of our listeners may be, learning a lot about medieval art for the first time. They may be like, hey, I really kind of would love to see some of this in action. What are some good places here in the U.S. that you can go to see a good collection of medieval art?
Sure. There are a lot of really great museums. If I had to name a couple offhand, there's the Museum of Classical and Medieval Art in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Very, very well regarded. If you are closer to the East Coast, I hear that Charlotte, North Carolina has a really good medieval art scene. And then I think honestly it's kind of hard to go without saying also in North Carolina, Raleigh is not maybe as academically inclined toward medieval art, but you'll get a lot of like medieval inspired art on like just murals and things around the city. Very famous, very well known for that. Let's see, if you're looking for, those are some places where you can like physically go and kind of explore. If you're really interested in like reading something about medieval art, there's this book series that I love to recommend. It's called Holy Shit, This Fucking Art is the Goddamn Best. It's a little bit on the spicier side with the language that it chooses to describe medieval art, but man, it is just some really surprisingly, I would say, intellectual stuff once you kind of get past that facade. So, yeah, that'd be my starting points.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your expertise and your recommendations, listeners. Go check out some pretty awesome medieval art, and hopefully you can take some of what you've learned and be an informed viewer instead of just like a dumb viewer like me. So
yeah, I love
right.
I love going to museums, and you can always tell the dumb viewers. They're just looking at the art.
How can you tell like what I know I already asked you your last question, but like what's
Yeah.
like a sign of someone who doesn't know what they're looking at a medieval art museum?
If you don't know it, if you're looking at medieval art and you don't know what you're looking at, you're probably standing a good like 4 to 6 feet from the canvas and just kind of like appreciating it. But
Sure.
real medieval art experts know to get right up close. Most museums don't let you do this anymore, but if you can sneak a little taste, that is
Mm.
the surprise, the surprise highlight of a lot of medieval art.
The extra dimension to medieval art.
Extra dimension. That's a great way to phrase that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the tip, and appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course. I will throw this right back at you. Let's go for another round here. Um, I have heard, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but you are one of the leading experts on Amazon's logistics services. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, that's actually yes. Thank you for yeah. Not a lot of people know that.
Sure.
Yeah, that covers everything from their warehouses to their packaging to their shipping network.
Hmm.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Okay, I'm going to start off with maybe a bit of a tricky question.
Hmm.
Why is it that when I order something small, they send it to me in such a giant box? What are they thinking?
Mm. Um, yeah, so that's a great question. It's one of the most common questions that people ask
Hmm.
regarding their Amazon packages. It has to do with something called the inverse square law.
Okay.
Essentially, the smaller your item is, the more volume is needed to protect it during shipping. So basically, if you ordered like, and that's actually, people don't know this, but Amazon actually has like a minimum size product that you can put like on Amazon, because like if you get smaller and they just can't ship it because the packaging has to be so big that it's just impractical to ship.
Interesting. So is that why when I go to buy, like sometimes I need a special size of like bolt or something for a project that I'm working on, and you can't buy. I mean, obviously I don't want to buy one bolt, but you can't buy just like a particular size. It seems like all Amazon sells are these multi-packs of like M2 through M8, and you've got to buy this pack of 2,000 bolts or whatever in order to get like the one that I need for my project.
Sometimes that's the case. For bolts specifically, though, I know that like the way that the bolts just spawn in the warehouses in the multi-packs. And Amazon is not physically able to open the packs and sell them individually.
Sure.
That can only be done by the end customer.
Uh-huh.
So for bolts specifically, it's actually just because that's how they naturally generate.
Sure. That is actually maybe an interesting area to start to dig into a bit more. How did Amazon locate all of these item generation spots to build their warehouses?
So they're not naturally occurring in the sense that you might think. I think a lot of people just feel like Jeff Bezos kind of got lucky and just like found them. They are actually created by specific conditions that exist in Amazon warehouses. There's a really interesting story about how Jeff Bezos kind of stumbled upon this formulation by accident back when he was in college, back in Amazon, California, which is, by the way, where the name Amazon comes from. You might not know that.
Interesting.
Essentially, basically, it's a combination of like underpaid workers, and which is why Amazon still to this day underpays their workers, because they have to in order to keep their business running.
It's fascinating.
A combination of underpaid workers, unclean bathrooms, and then, which both of those things are not totally uncommon, but the kind of secret sauce was they had a forklift with a broken wheel. So it was like a 3-wheeled forklift.
Yeah.
And so the combination of those three things, and no one knows. I mean, Amazon is very secretive about how they put those things together to get their warehouses in the precise kind of maximum generation throughput that they have.
Sure.
But it's kind of some combination of those three things that they put together in order to generate the amount of products that they do.
Interesting. So, yeah, that honestly flips my entire understanding of Amazon kind of upside down. That they're specifically creating all of these conditions. Is that something that has to then translate to their shipping network? Like, are there kind of cultivated conditions there as well?
No, the shipping network is something that they've developed over time. Like when Jeff Bezos had his first warehouse where he figured out this image generation stuff, their shipping was just a guy named Dan who had a van and a plan.
Right.
Kind of over time, as he realized how cheap it was for him to generate products, he realized that the more he could optimize his shipping network, the more profit he could make from the whole operation. And so that's kind of how they've developed just kind of such an effective shipping network over the course of 20 plus years that they've been in business at this point.
Yeah. Where would you say this is maybe a bit of a subjective question, what's the most impressive place that Amazon manages to ship to today?
That is a great question. I love telling this story. So are you familiar? So geography lesson for everybody. Yep. So Amazon has warehouses all over the world, obviously, more in the United States and other more developed countries. So we're going to turn our sights over to Africa. There's not
Sure.
as many Amazon warehouses in Africa just because there's not as much wealth there. There's not as many people buying Amazon products.
Right.
But there are specifically no Amazon warehouses on the island of Madagascar. And the nearest Amazon warehouse is over in Zimbabwe. And anytime someone in Madagascar orders anything, there's no, people don't know this, there's no bridges or tunnels from mainland Africa over to Madagascar. And Madagascar does not allow Amazon to fly planes over there. They just shoot them down if they do. They've tried. I think Amazon, it's a side note, I think Amazon is working on some like low radar spy plane technology to start getting things in there more efficiently. But
Sure.
for the time being, anytime someone in Madagascar orders something, the person has to literally walk on the ocean floor
Wow.
from mainland Africa over to Madagascar. Obviously, it takes quite a bit of special equipment for them to be able to do that. Once again, if they try to swim across, Madagascar's navy is just going to take care of them.
Sure.
So, and it requires very special waterproof packaging, and pressure-proof packaging in order to get those items. So because of that, there's like restrictions on what even you can buy from Madagascar because not everything can be carried by someone underwater.
Yeah.
That long. So while there have been, I will say, like, this is just my opinion of what's the most impressive, just because everything they have to go through in order to get the package over there. There have been like more impressive places.
Sure.
Like obviously everyone knows that Amazon has shipped packages to Antarctica, Alaska, the Moon, Saturn, and those all have their unique challenges. But in my opinion, Madagascar is just the most impressive one to me.
Yeah, so that actually answers. I was gonna ask you one of my next couple of questions was gonna be I usually get my packages in either a cardboard box or like a white kind of plasticky bubble wrap pouch thing.
Yes.
But the other week I ordered a new pair of scissors from Amazon and it showed up in a sealed pressure vessel. I wonder if that was repurposed then from their Zimbabwe warehouse.
It's possible, but I mean, it's going to sound kind of obvious, so I don't want to make you feel dumb. But like, if they had put it in the other two, like, how would you open a cardboard box?
With the scissors.
Right? So like, if they tried to ship it in the box, it would literally open itself, and they would not be able to ship it. So that's probably why they shipped the scissors in the pressure vessel, to ensure that the scissors would stay within the packaging.
Yeah, that probably makes a lot more sense than them from their closest warehouse to me is actually just like right down the street here.
Yeah, there you go.
Be kind of weird if a pressure vessel from Zimbabwe ended up making its way over here.
But I will say the fact that they've had this Zimbabwe operation has kind of helped them perfect their pressure vessel design.
Of course.
So that they can ship these like kind of, I say dangerous. Scissors themselves aren't dangerous, but they're dangerous to the packaging. So that's what I'm saying. Dangerous, right. These dangerous items that are hard to ship normally.
Yeah. Does that also apply then for like a box knife? They ship those sealed as well?
Sometimes it just depends upon the box knife design. Like some box knives can be retracted. And so for those, they can just ship them normally because then there's no exposed blade.
Sure.
But for some they do have to ship them in special containers.
All right, here's my final question for the Amazon delivery network, and it's I think one of the least appreciated but most critical parts is the delivery drivers. Right, we've talked about all of this infrastructure, but you got to talk about the people who are operating all of this. Often heavy machinery getting things from place to place. Why do they all look the exact same? I have literally never seen an Amazon delivery driver that was not about 6'2", 6'3", with black hair, a mustache, sometimes sunglasses, sometimes
Hmm.
not sunglasses, but that's pretty much the only deviation. What's up with that?
So, in order for Amazon's delivery network to be as efficient as it is, there's a couple requirements.
Yeah,
One is they have to have people who are really good drivers who can
sure,
drive pretty much as fast as possible without getting pulled over.
sure.
Number two, they have to have people who are very familiar with like the routes that they're driving. Um, so they have to have people who have good like knowledge of roads and things like that. They have to have people who are very driven, who are going to be able to stay on their feet a lot of the time. There's other requirements, but you get the idea, right? They need people who are kind of ideal delivery drivers. And they've discovered that the easiest way to do that is simply to they find like top delivery drivers and just clone them.
Oh,
Now, what you may not realize, and most people may not realize, although they might have realized it when you were talking actually,
yeah.
is that the drivers are regionalized. So, like, the driver that you're describing, his name is Dave. He's the kind of Midwest delivery driver.
Yeah.
But someone listening to this from, like, the East Coast is going to be like, what are you talking about? That's not what Amazon delivery drivers look like.
Oh,
They're going to
really?
be like, yeah, they're going to be like, it's like a
Wow.
black lady. She's like 5'3", a lot shorter than what you were saying.
Yeah.
A little stocky. Because that's Shanice. She's the delivery driver for the East Coast.
Wow. So it's
So
that optimized to the.
yeah, and because different countries have people that are more ethnically appropriate to those areas. Because
Sure.
another thing that can slow them down is like getting pulled over by police for like profiling or whatever. So they really want to like pick someone who is really going to be kind of culturally optimized for that particular region.
Sure, sure. Wow, that is a lot of complex consideration, but also complex, technological. I was not aware that human cloning existed, let alone was deployed at mass scale by Amazon to effectively deliver packages.
Well, like I said, they do keep a lot of their operational stuff pretty secret. So
Wow, I'm glad to know that my Prime subscription money is being put to good use. Let me just say that. So
yes, and I will say one more thing, which is like you may see like kind of people. One thing I get asked all the time is about Walmart. Because,
Oh, sure.
Walmart has is kind of growing to have a very similar vibe to Amazon, where they have like lots of different products, and similar kind of delivery times. And with Walmart, you can just kind of see how Amazon's just kind of perfected their craft in every way. Like with Walmart, they don't always have every product you want. Like they have a lot of stuff, but like they haven't quite kind of perfected that kind of a product generation formula. Their delivery drivers tend to have small differences from one another, which can make their delivery system less efficient. So like whereas Amazon, like I get notifications now when I buy something on Amazon, it's be like this you can have this arrive within within between 6 and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Like that, which is crazy. With Walmart, you still got 2-day shipping, which is
Sure.
good, obviously, but it's it's no Amazon. So these are just kind of tiny inefficiencies that really, by contrast, just show how perfectly Amazon has kind of honed their craft.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that's impressive. It's fun to think about these things in a lot more depth than you normally would. Just goes to show how fascinating even something as dull sounding as a massive global logistics network can be.
Sure. Yeah, all right. Well, thank you for having me on to talk about this. It's not something that I get the opportunity to discuss a lot, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, happy to have you join us today.
Yeah, and why don't I have one more topic for you, if you don't mind,
Sure.
if you're up for it.
Yeah.
This is about all the different varieties of fish
Okay.
that exist, like in the English Channel, in between the island of Great Britain and mainland Europe.
Yeah.
Which I know that you have done a lot of research on, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So I was wondering first, I know that you have a doctorate in this area. I was wondering if you could first walk us through what your doctorate thesis was for your dissertation and kind of how that went as you explored that topic.
Yeah, my thesis topic, I was putting together a mathematical model for the exact gradient of fish of language spoken by fish from the English side to the French side
Mm.
of the channel. It's been long well understood that such a gradient did exist, but the actual slope, and was this even a linear change? Was there something more complex going on here? Um, was just kind of not very clear, and so I spent a lot of time on a very detailed survey, first of all, of collecting data points at precise intervals along the length of or along the width rather of the channel, and then at several different points along its length, just to kind of understand if there was any sort of let's say east-west dependence there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found kind of interestingly enough is that it's really a sigmoid curve, was I don't think anyone was
Mm.
expecting
And
of.
for the layman, can you elaborate on what that is?
Yeah, it kind of like starts out going like pretty flat, and then it goes flat, right? You kind of got
Oh, okay.
a shape.
Little kind of S kind of
Yeah, a little bit
vibes.
like that. It's very wiggly. It's like a line, um, except for the parts where it kind of changes direction and becomes a different line. But it's all
Mm.
one function, and that's kind of why I got a PhD for this research, is because
Right.
there was so much, angle changing going on there.
Yeah.
Plus, I used big words like sigmoid in my thesis, and all the reviewers applauded when I said that one out loud.
Well,
So
they probably, being experts on fish, didn't know anything about what that meant. So that was probably like easy points for you.
yeah, big time. To be honest, struggled a little bit with the marine biology side of this research, but I think I really nailed down specifically the pronunciation of the word sigmoid, and that I
Hmm.
think went a long way toward
Sure, sure.
the ultimate acceptance of my thesis defense. So, that being said, yeah, that was kind of groundbreaking to understand that, by the coast, right, you've got this very strong concentration of, English speaking and French speaking fish. Um, and when I say speaking, of course, I don't mean like speaking like you or I speak. I mean speaking with like a British accent, or a speaking English but with a French accent. You know what I mean?
They both speak English, is what you're saying.
Of course, it's the English channel.
Well, I just didn't know. I mean, I layman here. I didn't know fish could speak English, so this is
Sure.
kind of news to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is I mean, I don't want to get into all the depth of it, but in the English Channel, the fish speak English. That makes sense. In the Atlantic
Hmm.
Ocean, they speak Atlantic. In the Pacific Ocean, they speak Pacific. It kind
Ah,
of goes on like that. There are tons and tons of exceptions, right? This isn't a general rule. Don't even get me started on rivers. But
hmm.
um, like if you're taking away just like the baby's first fish languages overview,
Right.
that's kind of all there is to it.
Now, I would guess, so one event that I would guess, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Mhm.
would guess has one of the kind of been one of the biggest events to happen to the fish in the English Channel
Mhm.
over recent times has been the construction of the Channel Tunnel between England and France.
Yeah, yeah.
How would you say that? Would you say that that had a major impact, and if so, what was the impact that that had on the fish in the English Channel?
Yeah, this I think is an area that is ripe for more research. I'll say that all of my work was done after the tunnel construction was finished, and like I said before that, there was not a very good understanding, quantitatively speaking, of the distribution of fish in the channel. But just based on my, kind of hobby scale experiments, like the channel tunnel, I think is, I don't know what, like 10 meters in diameter or something. And what I was doing was I bought on Amazon, funnily enough, a 300 mile length, quarter-inch diameter tube, and was just kind of
Hmm.
like stringing that across the channel to see what impact a tube shaped object had on the fish. Like I said, a totally different scale here. But with that tube in place, there was a lot more um, exchange of language. Interestingly enough, it's almost like they were using it as a conduit to kind of pass information along. Um,
Ah.
I have to imagine it's the same effect, but much bigger with the channel. I know it's well understood that the transoceanic cables for like the internet, the physical, um, electrical and more recently fiber cables. That's a very well understood effect. But just the hollow tubeness of the
Hmm.
channel is a little bit unique in this regard.
Um, okay, thanks for clarifying that. So now, what would you say are some of the most unique or interesting species of fish that one can find in the English Channel?
Yeah, aside from, at either extreme where you've got the English fish or the French fish, kind of in the middle, sometimes you'll get a trout, which isn't intrinsically English or French, but you will find that depending on kind of which side they tend to, they do exhibit some pretty strong regional tendencies. I really hope the printer sounds come through on the podcast because I only hear you like slap the.
It's not that loud, so it might
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. So we got trout. That's a big one. There's also carp. Not much to say honestly about carp. They're just kind of wherever. Um, Sea turtles are a really interesting one because they didn't used to stray too far into the channel, but after Brexit, they've started showing up more and more frequently. I think it's because they weren't. Um, they were maybe in the Schengen uh, economic treaty, if you're familiar at all with that, but not the EU proper. Again, this is kind of like geopolitics. I only really know about English Channel fish, so this is I'm probably explaining this all wrong, but I think it was something to do with the passport situation is what it really boils down to. So you start to see a lot more sea turtles after about the 2016-2017 mark. What else? That's probably the big ones. You've got quite a few guppies. Those things are just there's millions of them everywhere. Shrimp, of course, if you consider those fish. I know some people do not because they have legs, which, shrimp are fish, let's be clear. Um, yeah, that's what comes to mind. I'm sure I'll be kicking myself in like 5 minutes here when I'm forgetting the most obvious things, but
So, as someone who's studied a lot of kind of the quantitative characteristics of
sure,
the fish in the English Channel, could you give us just like a raw, I mean, as accurate as you can? I don't
sure.
know how precise you can be, but
Uh-huh.
how many fish are there in the English Channel?
Yeah, my studies, so what I can say confidently, in my survey, I collected data points from 13,751 different fish. And I collected those data points over the course of 3 years. So averaging, fish per year, maybe 4,000. And I would say I was, this was a very thorough survey. I probably caught about 80 to 90% of all fish in the channel.
Wow.
So over the course of a year, I would say 5,000, at the absolute upper end, 6,000 fish in the English Channel over the course of an entire year.
Now, when you caught the fish, this is like really interesting to hear about this.
Mhm.
How did you know if you had caught the fish before? Like, so that you didn't like mark it twice, if that makes sense.
That absolutely makes sense, and that was a big part of the experimental design. So a lot of teams will do kind of a catch and release kind of strategy where you've got various either experimental designs to not care if you're recatching the same fish, or you'll put like a tag, a kind of a marker on, or the population that you're concerned with is so small that just statistically, like if you're only studying 4 or 5 fish, the odds that you've caught the same fish twice in that sample are minuscule. So what I did, what my team and I did, my team of about, let's see, we had 3 other graduates, the advising professor, and then a team of about 10 to 20 undergraduates on a kind of a rotating weekly basis, is we would just eat all the fish that we caught.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Extremely destructive to the ecosystem. I will say that. It was an incredibly damaging study. But we did learn about the dialects of fish speech in the English Channel, or at least what it was before.
Now, now I'm sure that was really good. Now I'm sure that you also learned a lot about like the different tastes of the different species of fish. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, this is really interesting because I myself am not a big fan of seafood. I don't know if that's come up at all on this podcast. But there have been a few times in my life where I just had just really exquisite seafood that I would have again in a heartbeat. And one of those times was during this study. I would say that the majority of the fish that I personally ate did not care for. I did insist that every fish was made into fish sticks for me, so that I could eat it with a sauce and some breading to kind of get that fishiness just kind of out of the way. But there was one time where we actually ran out of the ingredients, or so I was told by the chef, and he prepared for me, instead of fish sticks with ketchup and mayonnaise like I usually request it, he prepared for me this fillet of like lightly seasoned. It was actually cod, a little unusual for us to find in the channel, but that's just what we happened to come across, and it was very, very subtle. Nice couple of sides, as I recall. There were some very nicely done potatoes, some roasted vegetables, and yeah, that was just an incredible meal. I can't speak highly enough of the work that was done, and I just can't understand actually why that chef couldn't translate that into the quality of fish sticks that I was really hoping for as I embarked on this experiment. But yeah.
Awesome. All right, I'll just for one final question here, for all of our listeners who may be interested in reading more about this, can you just share the name of your dissertation so that, if someone wanted to look it up afterwards and read some more, that they could do so?
Sure. This is a 2019 publication. It's called, all capital letters, Sigmoid, and then an exclamation point, colon, the study of fish language distribution as it concerns the English Channel from the French to English side. A little bit of a wordy title, which is why I kind of went with the headliner there.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think that kind of covers it. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise on this topic.
Great. Yeah. Always happy to. I love getting my research out there, and it's always a good day to talk about fish.
Of course. Wow. We're here at an hour of 13.
Yeah. Do you think we can squeeze in one more, or do you wanna wrap up?
I'm neutral. I'm kind of happy to wrap up. Or if you think one more would be good, what do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I feel like this has been great. This is a subject that I would happily, or a podcast format that I would happily return to in the future. So why don't we keep a couple of these in the bank here?
Yeah.
And see where we go.
Awesome. So, listeners, let us know what you thought. We did a brand new thing, which we don't often do. So let us know what you thought about this format, about the feedback of how we did. Like maybe you liked the format, but it would have been funnier if we had done XYZ. Or maybe you thought it wasn't that entertaining and you would never want us to do it again. Let us know. Also, special thanks to Microsoft's Copilot, who came up with this idea.
Right.
Along with like 6 other bad ideas, but it did come up with at least one good idea. So
Wait, I thought you
Credit
said the
to
other
that.
ideas were things that we have done in the past.
No comment. Um, and I guess just fuck you to my printer is the last thing that I have to say. Like, just really, I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night and it's gonna be printing. Like I already know.
Just unplug
So,
it.
uh, yeah, I guess that would work, probably.
One would hope, or else your printer is now possessed.
I mean, might already be possessed. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I'm Alex,
I'm Alex.
and this has been Joel.